I sat in my grandmother's kitchen, running my fingers over the worn oak table where we'd shared countless cups of tea. The morning light filtered through the lace curtains she'd hung decades ago, casting delicate shadows across the faded wallpaper. Everything in this house held a memory, each corner echoing with the warmth of her presence, even though she'd been gone for 6 months now. The silence was broken by the harsh sound of heels clicking against hardwood. My sister Victoria strode in, designer purse swinging from her arm, not a hair out of place in her perfectly styled blonde waves. Behind her, my parents followed like a somber parade. "Well?" Victoria's voice cut through the air. "When are you planning to move out?" I took another sip of my tea, grandmother's favorite china cup warm against my palms. "Good morning to you too, Vic." She rolled her eyes, pulling out her phone and barely glancing up. "Don't be difficult, Emma. You know this is my inheritance now. The lawyer read the will yesterday." Our mother stepped forward, wringing her hands in that nervous way she developed ever since Dad's business started struggling. "Emma, honey, we know this is hard, but the will was very clear." I studied them all. Victoria's smug satisfaction, Mom's forced sympathy, Dad's careful avoidance of eye contact. They had no idea what was really going on. "Actually," I said quietly, "I'm not going anywhere." Victoria's head snapped up from her phone. "Excuse me." "You heard me." "This is my house now," she said, voice rising. "Grandma left it to me. It's in the will." I set my cup down carefully, the gentle clink against the saucer echoing in the sudden tension. The will only covers what Grandma owned when she died. But she didn't own this house then. Dad finally spoke, his businessman's instincts kicking in. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope, weathered and worn like I'd been carrying it for months. In truth, I'd only picked it up from my safety deposit box this morning. "Grandma sold me the house last year," I said, sliding the envelope across the table. "Full sale, properly registered. I have the deed right here." The color drained from Victoria's face. "You're lying." "Open it." Her hands shook as she snatched the envelope, nearly tearing it in her haste. The deed fell out, along with transfer documents, all properly notarized and filed. This can't be real," she stammered. "Oh, it's real," I said, standing slowly. "Grandma and I arranged it all last spring. She knew exactly what she was doing." Mom stepped forward, peering at the papers. "But how could you afford this?" I smiled faintly. "I've been saving since college. All those extra shifts at the hospital, the overtime you all mocked me for taking. Poor Emma, always working. No social life. Remember those comments, Vic?" Victoria's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "This isn't fair. I'm the one who deserves this house. I'm the successful one." "Successful?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You mean living off Dad's credit cards while pretending to run a fashion blog? At least I earned my own way." "Daddy," she shrieked, turning to our father. "Do something." Dad was still studying the documents, his face growing grimmer by the second. "These appear legitimate," he said slowly. "All the paperwork is in order." "I don't care." Victoria slammed her hand on the table, making the teacup rattle. "This is my inheritance. She can't just buy it out from under me." "Actually, I can." And I did. I pulled out my phone. "Now you have 2 choices. You can leave quietly, or I can call the police and have you removed for trespassing." "You wouldn't dare." I hit speed dial, holding her gaze as it rang on speaker. "Local police department. How can I help you?" Victoria lunged for my phone, but I stepped back quickly. Yes, hello. I'm the owner of 1542 Maple Grove Road. I have some people here who are refusing to leave my property. Emma, stop this. Mom pleaded. An officer will be dispatched to your location, the dispatcher said calmly. Thank you. I ended the call, looking at my family's shocked faces. You have about 10 minutes. Victoria's composure finally cracked. You little witch. You planned this all along. No, I said quietly. Grandma planned it. She knew exactly who you were, Vic. All those times you were too busy to visit, too important to help when she was sick. Who do you think took care of her? Who sat with her through chemo? Who drove her to every appointment? Tears were streaming down Victoria's face now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage. You'll regret this, she hissed. I'll fight it in court. The sound of sirens in the distance cut her off. Time's up, I said. You should go. Dad grabbed Victoria's arm. Come on. We need to talk to our lawyer first. They hurried out, Victoria still screaming threats over her shoulder. Mom lingered in the doorway, looking lost. Emma, please. We're family. Family? I shook my head. Family doesn't treat each other the way you all treated me. Grandma was the only one who saw me for who I really am. She's the only one who cared. The police car pulled up outside. Mom gave me one last pleading look before hurrying after the others. I watched through the window as they explained to the officers, gesturing wildly. The deed in Victoria's hand shook as she waved it around. The older officer reviewed the documents carefully, then approached the house. Mom, he said when I opened the door. I've reviewed the deed. It appears you're the legal owner of this property. Yes, I am. Would you like to press charges for trespassing? I looked past him to where my family stood, Victoria sobbing dramatically while Mom tried to comfort her. Not today, I said. Just make sure they leave. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. As he walked back to my family, I closed the door quietly. The house felt different now. Lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. I walked back to the kitchen and picked up Grandma's teacup, remembering the day she told me her plan. They think they know everything, she'd said, her voice weak, but her eyes sharp as ever. But you, my dear Emma, you have something they'll never understand. A heart that knows what really matters. I touched the worn edges of the deed. This house wasn't just property. It was Grandma's legacy, her way of finally setting things right, and I intended to honor that legacy. But this wasn't over. I knew my sister. Victoria wouldn't let go easily. She'd always gotten everything she wanted, one way or another. The deed was just the beginning. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. John? They just found out. Yes, exactly as we expected. Better get ready. I have a feeling we're going to be busy. As I hung up, a text from Victoria lit up my screen. This isn't over. You have no idea what's coming. I smiled, thinking of the other documents safely stored in my safety deposit box. No, Vic, I whispered. You have no idea what's coming. Because Grandma hadn't just left me the house. She'd left me something far more valuable. The truth about our family's fortune and Victoria's role in nearly destroying it. But that revelation could wait. For now, I had a house to redecorate. 3 days after the police incident, I was sorting through Grandma's old files in her study when my phone buzzed. A series of texts from unknown numbers flooded my screen. Friends of Victoria's, I assumed, sending threats and accusations. I blocked each one without reading them. Then came the email from our family lawyer, Marcus Bennett. Emergency family meeting requested. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Attendance mandatory for will dispute. I leaned back in Grandma's leather chair, running my fingers over the carved wooden box she'd given me the night before she passed away. When the time comes, she'd whispered, this will protect you. I hadn't opened it yet. Something told me to wait for the right moment. The next day, I walked into Marcus's office exactly at 2 p.m., wearing the navy suit Grandma had helped me pick out last year. Victoria was already there, surrounded by 3 lawyers I didn't recognize. Mom and Dad sat in the corner, looking exhausted. You've got some nerve showing up, Victoria spat. I took a seat across from her. I was invited. Marcus cleared his throat. We're here because Ms. Victoria Anderson is contesting the property transfer of 1542 Maple Grove Road, claiming undue influence and potential manipulation of the deceased. I noticed Victoria's slight smirk. She thought she had me. Furthermore, one of her lawyers added, we have evidence suggesting Mrs. Eleanor Anderson was not of sound mind when this alleged sale took place. Now I understood their game. They were trying to invalidate the sale by claiming Grandma wasn't competent. I opened my briefcase calmly. Before we continue, I have something you should see. I pulled out a USB drive and handed it to Marcus. This contains video documentation of the sale, including Grandma's medical clearance from 3 separate doctors confirming her mental competency. Victoria's smirk faltered. There's more, I continued. Grandma knew you might try something like this, Victoria. That's why she recorded everything. Marcus plugged in the USB. The large screen on the wall flickered to life, showing Grandma sitting in her study, looking directly into the camera. If you're watching this, she began, it means Victoria is trying to contest my decision. I want to be very clear. I sold this house to Emma of my own free will, with full mental capacity. But more importantly, I need to explain why. Victoria shifted uncomfortably in her seat. 2 years ago, Grandma continued, I discovered something disturbing. Someone had been embezzling from the family foundation, the foundation I started to help children with cancer. At first, I couldn't believe who was responsible. The room went deadly quiet. Victoria, Grandma's voice cracked with emotion. I saw you transfer those funds. I watched you steal from sick children to fund your lifestyle. I have all the documentation, every transfer, every fake invoice. Victoria jumped to her feet. Turn it off. Sit down, Marcus ordered sharply. On screen, Grandma continued, I didn't report it because I wanted to protect our family from scandal. Instead, I found a way to make it right. I sold the house to Emma, the only one of my grandchildren who showed true compassion, and used that money to secretly repay everything Victoria had stolen. Dad's face had gone pale. Victoria, what did you do? She's lying. Victoria screamed. This is all lies. I pulled out another folder. Bank statements, transfer records, and your fake invoices. Grandma kept everything. Victoria's lawyers huddled together, whispering urgently. There's more, I said quietly. Grandma gave me something the night before she died. I finally opened the carved wooden box, revealing a stack of documents. Turns out, Victoria didn't just steal from the foundation. She's been embezzling from Dad's company too. Mom gasped. Dad snatched the documents, his hands shaking as he read. $500,000, he whispered, through fake vendor accounts. Victoria's perfect composure crumbled. Daddy, I can explain. Explain. His voice rose. Our company is barely staying afloat, and you've been stealing from us? One of Victoria's lawyers stood up. We need to pause this meeting. No, I said firmly. We're not done. Grandma left me one more thing. I pulled out a final envelope. Her controlling shares in Dad's company. The room erupted in chaos. Victoria lunged for the envelope, but security quickly restrained her. Her lawyers started packing their briefcases. Mom burst into tears. Why? Dad asked, looking broken. Victoria, why would you do this? Because she could. I answered for her. Because she always got away with everything, but not anymore. Marcus cleared his throat again. Given this new evidence, I assume you'll be pressing charges. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the designer clothes and perfect makeup, I saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear. That depends, I said carefully. I have a proposition. Victoria's eyes narrowed. What proposition? You sign a confession admitting everything you stole. You agree to mandatory counseling. You take a real job with a modest salary, and you pay back every penny over time. And if I refuse, then I take this evidence to the police, and you face the consequences. She laughed bitterly. You'd really send your own sister to jail. You were willing to destroy our family's legacy. So yes, I would. The room fell silent as Victoria stared at me, mascara running down her cheeks. Finally, she whispered, I'll sign. Good. I turned to Marcus. Draw up the papers, and add one more condition. She never contests Grandma's decisions again. As Marcus began preparing the documents, Mom approached me hesitantly. Emma, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I replied. Just remember this moment, the next time you think you know who deserves what. Dad was still reading through the evidence, his face aged 10 years in an hour. I'll need your help, he said quietly, to fix the company. I nodded. That's what Grandma wanted. She believed in second chances, but only for those willing to earn them. As I drove home that evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost blocked it automatically, but something made me look. You think you've won, it read, but you have no idea what I'm capable of. I smiled grimly, thinking of the security cameras I'd installed around the house. The extra copies of evidence stored in multiple locations, and the private investigator I'd hired to watch Victoria. Actually, I whispered, I know exactly what you're capable of. That's why I'm ready for whatever comes next. Because this wasn't just about a house anymore. This was about justice, truth, and finally standing up to the sister who tried to destroy everything our grandmother had built. And I was just getting started. The autumn wind rustled through the maple trees outside Grandma's, my house, as I reviewed the security footage from the past week. Victoria had been quiet. Too quiet. Experience had taught me that my sister was most dangerous when she appeared to surrender. I wasn't wrong. At exactly 3:17 a.m., my phone jolted me awake. The security system had detected movement at the back door. Through the camera feed, I watched a hooded figure fumbling with the lock. Behind them, a familiar Mercedes was poorly hidden behind the garden shed. I smiled grimly. Victoria never could resist expensive cars, even for a break-in. Instead of calling the police immediately, I waited. Grandma's final lesson was still unplayed, and timing was everything. The back door opened silently. I'd left it unlocked on purpose. I watched through the cameras as Victoria crept through the darkened house, heading straight for Grandma's study. She was looking for something specific. I stepped out of the shadows just as she was frantically searching through the desk drawers. Looking for this? I held up a small red leather diary. Grandma's private journal. Victoria spun around, pulling off her hood. Even in the dim light, I could see the desperation in her eyes. How did you know you'd come? I flicked on the lights. Because Grandma told me you would. She knew about the other diary too. Victoria's face went pale. What other diary? The one you forged. The one you're planning to use to prove Grandma was unstable when she sold me the house. I pulled out my phone, showing her the text messages I'd intercepted between her and a professional forger. Not very careful with your passwords, are you? She lunged for the diary, but I stepped back. Don't bother. This isn't even the real one. What? I pointed to the security camera in the corner, its red light blinking steadily. Everything you've done tonight has been recorded. Breaking and entering, attempted theft, conspiracy to commit fraud. Want me to go on? You set me up, she whispered. No, Victoria. You set yourself up, just like you have your entire life. I walked to Grandma's desk and pressed a hidden button under the drawer. A small panel in the wall slid open, revealing a safe. The real diary is in here, along with everything else Grandma wanted me to know. I turned to face my sister, including why she really chose me over you. Victoria sank into a chair, her designer clothes looking oddly out of place in the quiet dignity of Grandma's study. What are you talking about? I opened the safe and pulled out a sealed envelope. Grandma wrote this the day before she died. I was supposed to open it only if you tried something like this. With trembling fingers, I broke the seal and began to read. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, it means Victoria has made her final move. I need you to understand why I chose you to carry on my legacy. Years ago, when I started the foundation, I had a dream of helping children fight cancer, just like I had to. Victoria saw it as a way to access money and power. But you, Emma, you saw the hearts behind the numbers. What Victoria never knew was that I was testing both of you. Every time she stole from the foundation, I watched how you worked extra shifts at the hospital to help those same children. When she faked invoices, you volunteered your weekends. When she bought designer clothes with stolen money, you wore second-hand scrubs and donated the difference to the cancer ward. I didn't just leave you the house, Emma. I left you everything. The foundation, the trust funds, the overseas accounts, all of it. Victoria's been searching for non-existent hidden millions, never realizing that true wealth isn't about money. It's about what you do with it. Take care of them, Emma, even Victoria. Not because she deserves it, but because compassion is the greatest power we have. All my love, Grandma. Victoria's mascara-stained tears left black trails down her cheeks. So there's no hidden money. There never was, I said quietly. But there was something more valuable, a chance to do the right thing. I walked to my sister and held out my hand. In it was a single key. What's this? She asked. A key to the small house on Cedar Street. The one Grandma used to rent out. It's yours if you want it. A fresh start. A real job. A chance to prove you can be better. She stared at the key like it might bite her. Why would you help me after everything I've done? Because that's what Grandma would have wanted. And because maybe, just maybe, it's time for both of us to heal. Victoria took the key, her hand shaking. I don't deserve this. No, you don't. But that's what grace is about. As dawn broke over the maple trees, Victoria and I sat in Grandma's kitchen, drinking tea from her old china cups. We didn't speak much. Some wounds need silence to heal. Finally, Victoria stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. I'm sorry, Emma. For everything. I know, I said. Now prove it. Weeks later, I stood in front of the Foundation's board of directors, presenting our new initiative, a program to help families affected by cancer rebuild their lives. In the back row, Victoria sat quietly in modest clothes, taking notes in her new role as program coordinator. She had a long way to go to earn trust back, but she was trying. Sometimes I caught glimpses of the sister I used to know, before money and jealousy poisoned her heart. As for me, I kept Grandma's china cups, her lace curtains, and most importantly, her belief that everyone deserves a chance at redemption. The house remained a home, not a trophy to be fought over. And late at night, when the maple leaves rustled outside my window, I could almost hear Grandma's voice. Well done, my dear. Well done. Because sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what's written in a will or locked in a safe. Sometimes it's the wisdom to know when to fight, when to forgive, and when to offer a key to a new beginning, even to those who tried to lock you out.